Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadhi Paschatya Deshatarane Trinadapi Sunichena Taradiva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nama Vakivalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyatha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone. I bless you. Always the early students are the best students. So may Krishna bless you and protect you. We are continuing with our seminar of the Bhagavad-gita. Last week we did the first part of chapter 9. Chapter 9 is entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. So I don't think I usually explain. Confidential knowledge is knowledge of Brahman, spirit, as opposed to matter. Knowledge of matter is inferior, as was pointed out by Krishna in chapter 7, when he said that the separated material energies are the inferior energies. So material knowledge is inferior, whereas knowledge of Brahman or spiritual subject matter is superior. So any kind of knowledge of spirituality, Brahman, that is called confidential knowledge. Then more confidential knowledge is knowledge of Param Brahman, the super soul. And we learn from Bhagavad-gita at least 5 places that Paramatma, Krishna, is in your heart. And then there is most confidential knowledge. And most confidential knowledge is knowledge of the relationship between you and the Supreme Lord Krishna. The form of Krishna is the ultimate form of Bhagavan. There are many different Bhagavans, but the Purna Bhagavan or the Swayam Bhagavan is the speaker of Bhagavad-gita, Sri Krishna. And the most confidential knowledge is understanding your unique individual relationship with Krishna. The question often arises, why do we even exist? What is the purpose of existence? And the purpose of existence, why we were, I don't like to use the word created, because that would seem to indicate a beginning point. And we already learned in chapter 2, the soul always existed. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. Neither in the future shall any of us cease to be. That was one of the first statements of Krishna in chapter 2. So we always existed. So this word, why were we created, is not, it's inadequate. The better word is, why do we exist? And we exist, the answer is we exist to share a loving relationship with Krishna. And each of us has an individual, unique relationship with Krishna. And we chant and we do all the prescriptions of Bhagavad-gita to come to the point of realizing what is our eternal relationship with Krishna. And when that is revealed to you by nice, pure chanting, you'll become so happy. You'll become so ecstatic. You might even become mad with ecstasy. So keep on chanting, because you're one day closer to understanding your eternal relationship, loving relationship with Krishna. Let us now go to the next section of chapter 9, verses 11 through 15. I entitle the Duratma, the Mahatma, and others. Number 11 is a very famous verse of Bhagavad-gita, one of the top 25. Abhajananti mang mudha manushing tanum asritam parang bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Krishna tells Arjuna, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. So yes, people in general understand God to be four-handed Narayan, Vishnu. But when Krishna appears, or when God appears in a human form, people in general become bewildered. The forms of Ram and Krishna specifically are the two major incarnations of God in the human form. There are others. So when God appears in a human form, people in general make a mistake. If you study the Mahabharata, you'll see even Dhritarashtra was asking Sanjaya that how come you accept Krishna as God and I do not? I am bewildered when I see all the different activities of Krishna. Duryodhana as well, he was also confused about Krishna's divinity. He said so in several places because he was bewildered by Krishna's seemingly contradictory behavior. So Krishna is saying that only the foolish people, the mudha, they deride Krishna when he comes in the human form. And that is because they don't understand Krishna's transcendental nature. What is that transcendental nature? Sat, Chit, Ananda. Everything Krishna does is eternal. Everything Krishna does is with full knowledge. And everything Krishna does is blissful. Even Krishna is killing a demon, he's enjoying it. It's blissful. When Krishna is dancing with the gopis, it's blissful. And later on when we sing and explain Damodarastaka, even when Yashoda ties up Krishna with rope, it's blissful. Because everything about Krishna is blissful. And then the Supreme Lord of all that be. We already learned that at the end of chapter 5. Bhoktaram yagyatapasang sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantam richati. Krishna said, I am the enjoyer of everything, all sacrifices. I am the proprietor. Everything comes from me. Everything is my energy. And I am everyone's dearmost friend because I am in everyone's heart. You may have a wife, husband, children, and you embrace them very closely to you, but they cannot get as close as Krishna because Krishna is right next to you in your heart. Where you are, right next to you, so nobody is dearer. And not only that, Krishna, the same Krishna, has been with you life after life after. He'll never abandon you. He's always there. When you took birth in a lower form as an aquatic bird, animal, insect, reptile, whatever, Krishna was accompanying you in your heart. Krishna is now with you in the human form. Same Krishna. He has not left you at any moment. If you go up to the heavenly planets, Krishna will also accompany you in your demigod form. Only when you go back home, back to Godhead, to the spiritual world, then you do not need Krishna in the heart. I just read one of Prabhupada's letters, and he was instructing his disciple. There is no need for Paramatma in the spiritual world because in the spiritual world, everyone is directly seeing Krishna. So there's no need. In the material world, we need Paramatma. Let's continue. Text number 12. Mogasha moga karmano moga jnana vichetasa rakshasim asuring chaiva prakriting mohining shrita. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In their deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. And so many examples. The whole Ramayana. Ravana was the most powerful man in the universe. But in the end, he lost everything. His kingdom burnt down. His greatest attachment, Sita, he lost that. He lost everything. Hiranyakashipu, same way. He had become the supreme person in the universe. But when he was killed by Lord Nrsimha, everything was finished. Kamsa was the most powerful king. He had made an alliance with all the other demons. But when the time was ripe, when Krishna was 11 years old, Krishna knocked the crown off of Kamsa and killed him there in the wrestling arena. So the demons and the atheists, they can go on for some time, but in the end, their liberation, their fruitive activities, and their so-called culture of knowledge are all defeated. Next verse. Mahatma nastumang partha daiving prakritim asrita bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutadam avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. So that divine nature is represented by Mother Hara or Lakshmi, Sita, the divine nature. Devotees, they are under the protection of the divine mother. They are fully engaged in devotional service. So that's the proof that someone is a great soul. It's not simply I rubber stamp, I'm a great soul, or I give myself a title, Mahatma. No. And you cannot be voted in. We vote you. No. Here is the proof you're always engaged in one of the 9 items of bhakti. You're doing it right now. Shravanam, hearing. Right now, for the next hour, you are Mahatma. Why? Because you're engaged in devotional service. They are fully engaged in devotional service. Why? Because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they know me as the original and the inexhaustible. Yes, Krishna is the origin. What does Lord Brahma say? Anadir Adi. We came from our parents, who came from their parents, who came from the back. It all started with Lord Brahma. But Lord Brahma has a cause. Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Garbhodakashaya Vishnu has a cause. Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu has a cause. Sankarshan. Sankarshan has a cause. Narayan. And there are a few more. We get to Balaram. And then where does Balaram come from? Even though Balaram is Krishna's elder brother, Balaram says, I come from Krishna. Go figure that one out. But does Krishna have an origin? No. That is the opinion of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma says, Anadi Adi. He has no cause other than himself. That's why I like to make a joke. The buck stops with Krishna. He has no origin other than himself. I even have one song where I put that in. He has no cause other than himself. Govinda. And inexhaustible. Krishna never dies. Some people think that when he was shot in the foot by the hunter, that Krishna died. No. You cannot kill God. You cannot kill Krishna. He appears, he disappears. Yes, it's true. Krishna left a material form just to bewilder the demons and atheists so that they could say, see, your Krishna died. But if you read carefully, Srimad Bhagavatam, when the hunter shot Krishna in the foot, Krishna delivered the hunter. He said, no problem. You shot me in the foot, that's okay. And the hunter went to the spiritual world. So if Krishna can give liberation to the hunter, what, he can't save himself? So the Bhagavatam explains that at that time Krishna ascended through the stratosphere to the heavenly planets and re-entered his abode. Krishna never dies, therefore inexhaustible. Next verse. Satatang kirtayanto mang yatantascha dridda vrta namasyantascha mang bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories. So this is a continuation. What are the symptoms of a Mahatma? So this is another symptom. Always chanting Krishna's glories. Endeavoring with great determination. Bowing down before Krishna. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. What's a good example? Good example was Rukmini. Rukmini never saw Krishna. She heard about Krishna from Narada. And from the description of Narada, Rukmini, so Sundar, you wanted to know some months ago about Rukmini. So now I'm telling a little Rukmini Katha just for you, Sundar. See how Krishna works? Krishna's amazing. He fulfills everyone's desires. So Rukmini simply heard about Krishna and decided, he is the only one I'm going to marry. Her brother had arranged her marriage to Krishna's enemy Shishupal. But after Rukmini heard about Krishna, she said, nope, I am only going to marry, and she wrote a letter to Krishna, instructing Krishna, I need you to come at a certain time. My marriage is coming in a day or two, and you arrive at that time when I'm coming out of the Durga temple. At that time you come and kidnap me. She gave Krishna specific detailed instructions how he should come. And in her letter that she wrote to Krishna, which was delivered by a Brahmana, she said, and if I'm not qualified to get you as my husband in this life, then I'm prepared to take hundreds of births until I become qualified to be your bride. So that's called determination. She was willing to take birth after birth after birth. Didn't matter. All she knew was she wanted Krishna. Next verse. Jnana yagyena chapyanye yajanto mam upasate ekatvena pritatvena bahuda vishvato mukam. And there are others who engage in sacrifice. How? By the cultivation of knowledge. They worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form. So this worship of the Supreme Lord as one without a second, there is the Bhagavatam story of Atri Rishi. Atri Rishi did not know who was God. So he decided, I will worship whoever it is God, I worship you. He did not know. But he wanted to worship God. So because he did not specify, the three principal, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, appeared before him. He performed severe penances, standing on one leg for many, many years, controlling the breathing. So all three appeared, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and said, since you did not specify, we all three have come. So Atri wanted a son. So Brahma said, yes, I will partially incarnate as your son, as Soma, the moon god. And Lord Shiva said, I will partially manifest myself as your son, Durvasa Muni. And there's much about Durvasa Muni in Ramayana and Mahabharata. And Vishnu said that I will incarnate partially as your son, as the great Dattatreya. So these three sons were born to Anasuya, the wife of Atri Rishi. So that's what it means here. The Supreme Lord, one without his, he didn't know, but that's what he wanted. Who is that person? One without a second. As diverse in many, yes, Krishna's in everyone's heart, and in the universal form, which we will study when we go to chapter 11. Chapter 11 is all about the universal form. Next section, verses 16 through 19. Krishna explains who and what he is. Aham kratur aham yagya swadhaham aham aushadam mantroham aham evajyam aham agnir aham hutam. But it is I who am the ritual. I am the sacrifice. I am the offering to the ancestors. I am the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. So this kind of information is called Vibhuti. In the next chapter, chapter 10, it is called Vibhuti Yoga. In the next chapter, we will study 81 opulences of Krishna, how Krishna can be represented or seen in terms of the material manifestation. But here he's giving you a preview. Any ritual that you're doing, that's me. Sacrifice you're doing, that's me. Especially chanting of the Maha Mantra. This is Krishna. The offering to the ancestors. Pinda. The healing herb. The transcendental chant. There are so many mantras in the Vedas. But of course we chant the Maha Mantra, the most powerful mantra of them all. I am the butter and the fire in the offering, because when you do a homa, you need that butter or ghee, the fire, and then what you offer. Pitaham asya jagato mata data pita maha vedyang pavitram omkara riksama yajra evacha. I am the father of this universe. I am the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge. I am the purifier and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, Sama, and Yajur Vedas. So these are different specific things within this material world that represent Krishna's vibhuti or opulence. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Surit Prabhava Pralayastanang Nidhanang Bijam Avyayam. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the dearmost friend. I am the creation and annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. We learned in chapter 7 a very important shloka, but that one line, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. When you come to the stage of God realization, you'll realize everything I see simply emanates from Krishna. A man sees a nice flower and he thinks, I will pick this flower and give it to my girlfriend and then she'll love me. But a devotee sees a flower, and what does the devotee think? How wonderful is my Krishna. When I sometimes go shopping, there's one place that has this very nice tree with very nice flower. Flower that's called plumeria. Do you have plumeria there in Panama? They're very common in Hawaii. So plumeria is very nice flower. Very, very fragrant. Very nice looking. So when I go shopping, there's this one big plumeria tree. So I take one or two of the flowers, I bring it home, I put it on my altar, and I offer it to Krishna. So when you reach the stage of self-realization, everything you see and touch will simply remind you of Krishna. 19. Tapam yaham mahang varshang nigrinam yutsrijamicha amritang chaiva mrityuscha sad asach chaham Arjuna. O Arjuna, I give heat, and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality, and I am death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. So all these verses are simply underscoring Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. Krishna is everything. Everything signifies Krishna. Prabhupada used to say, the atheist denies the existence of God. That's what an atheist is. He does not believe in the existence of God. But Prabhupada used to say, that's all right. At the time of death, the atheist will believe, because Krishna comes in the form of death. Ravana understood, because Ravana was thinking, who is this Ram? He's not an ordinary human being. I don't have to worry about human beings or monkeys. I am impervious. I got so many benedictions from Brahma that human beings and monkeys are insignificant. Ravana found out that Ram was not just an ordinary human being. So that goes back to the previous verse we studied at the beginning. Fools deride me. Yes, Ravana derided Ram, thinking him to be an ordinary human being. He didn't realize he was dealing with the Supreme God, all-powerful. And Mandodari, Ravana's chief queen, Mandodari, when she was standing over or sitting over Ravana's dead body, she chastised him. You fool! You did not understand the power of Mother Sita. You did not understand the power of Ram. And now Lanka is finished, all because of your stupidity. So Krishna comes as death for the atheist. We have an expression here in America that says, in the foxhole. That means when you're fighting a war and you dig a trench, that's called a foxhole. So it's a very common expression. In the foxhole, there are no atheists because everyone is very much afraid of dying. Or sometimes, another example, you're riding on an airplane and all of a sudden there's great turbulence. I know I go through this. Great turbulence. Immediately, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. The famous Beatle, George Harrison, he wrote once that he was in such a terrible disturbance in an airplane. It was going down, down, down. He had his feet against the back of the seat in front of him, and he was chanting as if his life depended on it. I guess his chanting worked because the plane didn't crash. But he said he was like that. He had his feet against the back of the front chair, and he was chanting like anything. All right, next two verses. What happens to the worshippers of the Vedas? Trividyamang somapa puta papa yagyai vishvasvargating pratayante te punyamasaj surendra lokam ashnanti divyan dibiteva bhogan. Those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, wherein they enjoy godly delights. Tetang bhukva svarga lokam vishalam, shine punye marchalokam vishanti, evang trayi dharmam anuprapana gatagatang kama kama labante. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So this again points out what's wrong with performing Vedic sacrifices and worshiping demigods for material profit. We already studied in chapter 7, there were 4 verses where Krishna explained the default of worshiping demigods. What did he say? He said, first of all, the results are limited and temporary. And only less intelligent people strive for results which are limited and temporary. The other thing Krishna pointed out is that the demigod cannot give the benediction unless Krishna in the heart of the demigod sanctions it. So that's another thing. Why go through a middleman? Go direct to the source. Bhagavatam also teaches that. Krishna is also saying that in the Bhagavad-gita. Anything you want, you come to me. So here, people perform austerities and penances in order to and sacrifices in order to go to the heavenly planets. But the problem is it's only temporary. You can only live in the heavenly planets for some time. And what happens? You come back to earth. Why would you do that? No, better to strive for something permanent. That's intelligent. So when you perform Krishna Bhakti, devotional service, you are striving for a permanent benefit. All right, text number 22 through 27. This subject matter is worship. Ananyas chintayanto mang ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhayuktanam yogakshemam bahamyam. This is a very powerful verse, especially that last line, yogakshemam bahamyam. Listen to what Krishna, so he just got finished saying that if you perform Vedic sacrifices, you achieve the heavenly planets, but eventually you have to come back to Cologne. Hear what is Krishna saying. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. I have personal experience of this. Personal. When I joined the temple, I was told, you can no longer play guitar. I thought I found a guitar in the basement of the temple, so I started playing. And my senior godbrother said, no, you cannot do this in the temple. No. So I did not touch a guitar for 7 years. Then, this one temple I was at, the temple president came up to me and said, here's $50. You can now buy a guitar. So I was like, oh, this is a gift from Krishna. I took the $50 and I ran to the guitar store, thinking, well, he might take it back. So I ran. I got a guitar, and even though I hadn't played in 7 years, I could immediately pick up and play just as good as I always played. So I preserve what they have. I have personal experience. And I carry what they lack? Yes. First time I went to Panama, 1999. Right? I didn't know what I was walking into. So I just started doing the programs. And it was in Panama that I started doing the blessings after each program, which now has become my trademark. Everybody would, after the program, would come up for blessings. Remember, Shrilesh? Yes. That became a feature of every program. I did a good lecture, I did a bad lecture, didn't matter. Just do the blessings at the end. Everybody will love you. So, Krishna, I didn't know what to do. How am I going to preach in Panama? So, I just depended on Krishna, and Krishna inspired me, Krishna empowered me, and just like this class, how am I doing this class? Krishna is carrying what I lack. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth as I explain these verses. I have the verses in the translation, But all the things I'm commenting, that's coming because of Krishna. Next verse. Yepyanya devata bhakta yajante swadayanvita tepi mam eva kaunteya yajantya vidipurvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, but they do so in a wrong way because it's indirect. Krishna is preferring that you worship him directly. But if we go to demigods, ultimately we're worshiping Krishna. As he says, they're factually worshiping only me, but they do so in a wrong way. In other words, Krishna is saying, it's not approved. You should worship me directly. That's why we chant Mahamantra. This is direct worship of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is direct access to Krishna. 24. Ahang hi sarva yagyanang bhokta cha prabhur eva cha nattumang abhijananti tat venatas chavanti te. I am the only enjoyer. I am the only master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. So this is a warning from Krishna. We need to recognize, that's why we study Bhagavad-gita. We need to recognize Krishna is the only enjoyer. Krishna is the master. Yanti deva brata devan patrin yanti patri brata bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajino pimam. Those who worship demigods will take birth among demigods. Those who worship ancestors will go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. But those who worship me will live with me. So here you have it. Here are your options. Here are your options. You worship demigods, depending on the strength of your worship, that's where you're going in your next life. There is a planet called Pitri Loka, where some of your ancestors are residing. It's considered a heavenly planet just at the bottom of the universe, above the hellish planets. Pitri Loka. And you can find some of your ancestors there who are enjoying nice heavenly pleasures as long as their descendants are performing the yearly pinda so that they can stay there. And those who worship ghosts and spirits, yes. There are so many so-called religions in the mode of ignorance. They worship ghosts and spirits. I'm sure there in Panama you can find such worshipers of ghosts and spirits. I know in South America, Guru Prasad Swami told me an experience he had. He actually witnessed some kind of voodoo worship, and he was actually cursed. Took him a long time to get free from the curse. He told me that story many years ago. So there is this worship in the mode of ignorance. And those who worship me will live with me. There you go. If you stay with Krishna, chant Hare Krishna mantra, and worship Krishna, you're going to go to Krishna. So you make your choice. Where you want to go, that's up to you. I know I made my choice. I know where I want to go. I want to live with Krishna, where there's no COVID-19. There is no disease in Krishna's abode. Now comes one of the most famous verses of Bhagavad-gita, I'm sure you all know this verse because I'm sure you use this verse when you do your food for life. Patrang pushpang phalang toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadahang bhakyuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. So twice the word bhakti appears because that is the real thing. And this word ashnami means, Krishna says, I actually eat. Please remember that. If you offer whatever you're cooking, if you offer it to Krishna with bhakti, with love and devotion, Krishna says, ashnami, I eat. So just think about it. And Prabhupada told us, if only once you can offer something to Krishna and he accepts it, your life is a success. Successful life. So go on with your Food for Life program. Offer everything to Krishna, but offer it with love. That's the key. Krishna doesn't care whether it's rice, dal, chapati, and how fancy it is. No. Krishna is concerned with how much love and devotion. You know better than me the famous story from Mahabharata. How Duryodhana made a big fancy feast for Krishna when Krishna came to Hastinapur. He made a fancy, sumptuous feast. Krishna declined Duryodhana's offer. Krishna instead went to the home of a Shudra, Vidura, and had simple dal, chapati, rice. But Krishna readily ate that. Why? Because Vidura was a bhakta. Vidura, even though it's simple rice and dal, still it was made out of love. Just as a side story, you all know the Golden Temple in Amritsar, right? You all know about that? So, some years ago, I had a computer technician who I would call sometime to fix my computer. And he was a Muslim man. I think he was from Afghanistan, but he was very nice man. And so once my wife and I, we said, why don't you stay for dinner? So we gave him rice and dal. He said, oh, I went to Amritsar. And he said, that dal, nothing in the world is as good as that dal. So I find that very amazing that here's a Muslim man, but he could appreciate, because there must have been some bhakti there in that dal that he got at the Golden Temple. So, the power of prasadam. I became a devotee because of prasadam only. So, when we offer food to Krishna, Krishna will eat it if it's made with love. All right. Now, Shrilesh, it's already 10 to 5. Should we stop here and do... Wait, I can't hear you.
How many verses to go through?
We got to do about 7 verses.
You want to leave it for the next week?
Yeah, we can tie this in with the first part of chapter 10. It'll work.
Ask everybody if everybody's fine with the next 7 verses. We'll continue. Please raise your hands, or we'll call it fine. Just you put your hands. Okay. I think we can continue, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, class.
Thank you.
Thank you. I bless you. All right, so this final section of chapter 9, the glories of Krishna's devotees. Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yajduhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva mad arpanam. This verse is the simplest definition of bhakti. Here it is, the simplest definition. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that as an offering to me. That's the simplest definition of bhakti. You do what you're doing, you do it for Krishna. Shubha Shubha Phalar Evang Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sanyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mam Upaishyasi. If you do this, you will be freed from the bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So if you live your life by that previous verse, whatever you do, do it for Krishna, you're going to become free from the bondage of work. Your mind will be fixed on Krishna. You'll be liberated and come to Krishna. Samohang sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti na priya ye bhajantir tumang bhaktya Mayi te chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. Now, how is that? Because everyone belongs to Krishna. Good or bad, still everyone is Krishna's part and parcel. Krishna doesn't envy anyone because there's no one equal to or greater than Krishna. We envy somebody who has something we don't have. But there is nobody that Krishna can be envious of, because he's already the topmost. He's not partial. Why? Because all living beings are his children. You have children. Are you partial? No. You mothers and fathers, you're equal to all of your children. So Krishna's the same way. We're all his children. Why should he be partial? I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to them. This is the other part of the bhakti equation. It's not one-sided. It's reciprocal. Notice what Krishna is saying. But if you render service to him, right? That means you're Krishna's friend. You're in Krishna, and Krishna reciprocates. I am also a friend to that person. You will realize this the more and more you render service. It will be revealed to you how Krishna, I have so much experience of this in my life. So much experience. How time and time and time again, Krishna has come to my rescue. So many times, Krishna came to me. Krishna is not something that is abstract. Krishna is real to me because time and time again I have seen Krishna's hand intervene. Apichet sudaracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadhur eva samantavyag samyag vyavasito hi saha. And even if one commits the most abominable action, if one is engaged in devotional service, he or she is to be considered saintly because one is properly situated in their determination. So yes, in the neophyte stage, a devotee may do something bad, but that Krishna does not hold it against someone. Because somebody has surrendered to Krishna and is trying to execute devotional life, Krishna gives them as many chances. Prabhupada once told us that as a devotee, if you break one of the principles, one time you're excused, 2 times you're excused, 3 times you're excused. But if something becomes a habit, then Krishna will directly punish the devotee. Keep in mind, once you become a devotee, you become an initiated devotee. Now whatever happens has anything to do with the material energy. Once you become a full-fledged devotee, now whatever is happening is coming directly from Krishna. Shiprang bhavati dharmatma sasvatchantam nigachyati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranasyati. He or she quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. Yes, because Krishna arranges it in such a way that he teaches the devotee not to do the wrong thing. I also have experience of this too, but I'm not going to get into it. But I know the meaning of this verse. Krishna arranges things in such a way the devotee learns their lesson. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly. My devotee never perishes. Now here, Name Bhakta Pranashyati does not necessarily mean that in each and every case the devotee does not die. That's not, devotees have to give up their body. What it means here, Pranashyati, perishes, means you do not lose your position of devotional service. If you don't make it back to Godhead in this lifetime, you will pick up from where you left off. This is explained in Nectar of Devotion, and so many times Prabhupada explained to us. Say in this life you only execute 65% devotional service. So you're not fit to go back to Godhead. That's all right. In your next life, you start off 66. Somehow or other you get an extra percentage point starting off. I don't know how that works, but that's how it was explained. So whatever you have achieved, you never lose it. It's your permanent asset. You may have a bank account, or you may have a stock market. The stock market goes up and down, up and down, up and down. You can lose your principal if you make a bad investment. But your investment in bhakti, you never lose your investment. You never lose it. It's an eternal asset. Nothing can stop or touch that amount of investment in devotional service. It's a permanent asset. Manghi partha vyapasritya ye pisu papa yonaya striyo vaishyastata shudras te piyanti parangatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, whether they be women or Vaishyas, merchants, Shudras, or workers, can attain the supreme destination. So here's a verse that's very dear to me. Your material situation has no bearing on your situation in devotional service. By birth, taking birth in a Hindu family is an elevated birth. You took birth as a Hindu because of your past pious activities. In my case, I took birth as Malacha Yavana in the United States. That's considered low birth. Yes, compared to you, your birth is considered much better than my birth, according to Vedic philosophy. But because I came in contact with Srila Prabhupada, and because I took up the process of Krishna consciousness, A Malecha Yavana is teaching you Bhagavad-gita. Yes. So this verse is the equalizer. Doesn't matter what your birth is. You just need to execute Krishna consciousness. You're now on the topmost platform. King Puna Brahmana Punya Bhakta Rajar Sayastata Anityam Asukam Lokam Imang Prapya Bhajasvamam. So how much more this is so of the righteous Brahmanas, the devotees and saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary, miserable world, look at what Krishna is saying. The material world was created by Krishna. Look what he himself says. Having come to this temporary, miserable world, the manufacturer is telling you straight away, hey folks, this material existence is temporary and miserable. Get out. Engage in loving service unto me. This is a very powerful statement here. Having come to this temporary, miserable world, you should engage in loving service to me. Final verse of chapter 9. We have now finished one half of Bhagavad-gita. Amazing. So this verse will appear again at the end of chapter 18. So that seems to indicate this is a very important verse. Practically speaking, one of the top 5 verses of Bhagavad-gita, since it's repeated twice. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mang namaskuru mam evaishyasi yuktvaibam atmanang matparayana. So here is Krishna's commandment. In the Christian religion, their whole religion is based on 10 commandments. We have 4. Here they are. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. That's number 1. That's topmost. Become my devotee, meaning engage in 1, 2, 3, as many of the 9 processes in devotional service that you can. Offer obeisances to me. When you go to the temple, we bow down. Worship Krishna. So you can worship Krishna by arati, and this is also worship of Krishna, japa worship, or another way to worship Krishna. At the end in chapter 18, one of the last statements of Bhagavad-gita is, if you read Bhagavad-gita, you worship Krishna by means of your intelligence. So reading Bhagavad-gita with your intelligence, you're worshiping Krishna. So 4 things. Always think of Krishna, never forget him. Become Krishna's devotee. Hare Krishna. Offer obeisances to Krishna and worship Krishna. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So the question now is, do you want to come to Krishna? Do you want to go to, I know I do. So if you have any questions, put your questions in the chat box. Now I'm going to sing Damodarashtaka. So if there's any questions, put it in the chat box. And I will sing Damodarashtakam, because we have to chant this song morning and evening, and it's now evening. Namamishwaram Sachit Ananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashoda Bio Lukalat Lavamanam Parabrishtam Atyantato Drutya Gopya Rudantang muhurnetra yugmam rijantam karamboja yugmena satanka netram muhushvasakampa trirekanka kanta stitagravam damodaram bhakti vadham iti driksvalilabir Ananda kunde swagoshang nimajantam akyapayantam Tadiyeshitageshu bhaktairjitatvang punak prematastang shatavritti vande Varangdeva moksham na mokshavadhingva na chanyan vrinehang vareshada piha idang deva purnata gopala balang sadame manas yavirastam kim anyay idang te mukam bojam adyanta nilay Britang kuntalay snigda ruktaischa gopya Muhushumbitam bimba ruktadarang me Manasya virastam alam laksha labhai Namo deva damodar ananta Vishnu prasida prabodhuka jalabdi magna Kripa drishti vrishtyati dinang bhatanu Vriyanesha mamagyam edyakshi drishyaha Kuveratmajo baddha murtyaiva yadvat Tvayamochitao bhakti vajao kri tao cha Tatha prema bhakti swakang me prayacha Namokshe graho mesti damodareha Namaste stu damne spuradipti damne Vidyodarayata vishvasya damne Namo radhikaya tvadiya priyaya Namo nantalilaya devaya tubhyam Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Radhe